She's 21 years old, she's from the Philippines, and in a few hours, she walks out onto center court at the Linder Family Tennis Center in Mason, Ohio, looks across the net at the world number 10, and doesn't blink. Alex Eala isn't supposed to be here yet. That's what the rankings said in January. That's what the seeding said in March. But nobody told her, because this is the player who beat the world number 3 in a title match 2 weeks ago, who arrived in Cincinnati as the 17th seed, the highest seeding of her career at this level, and who woke up on the morning of her tournament debut sitting at a career-high number 18 in the live rankings, 2 spots up from where she started the week. And now, Amanda Anisimova, a 2-time Grand Slam finalist, is the only thing standing between her and the round of 16. This stopped being a feel-good underdog story somewhere in the first week of August. This is a takeover. There are matches that exist because the draw put them there, and then there are matches that feel like somebody wrote them. The third round between Alex Eala of the Philippines and Amanda Anisimova of the United States is the second kind, and everyone could see it coming from the moment the bracket was released. The 9th seed and the 17th seed on a direct collision course, both of them holding up their end of the projection without dropping a set they had to play. For Eala, this is the defining chapter of the most important stretch of her career, the point where a summer of breakthroughs either compounds into something permanent or gets filed away as a hot run. For Anisimova, it's another rung on a ladder she's been climbing all year, trying to get back to the player who terrorized the back half of 2025. 2 storylines, 1 court, and here's the detail that makes it genuinely fascinating. These two have never played each other. Not once. No head-to-head record, no old scores to lean on, no patterns from a previous meeting to study on video. 0-0. Whatever happens tonight gets written in real time, in front of a Cincinnati crowd that is quietly turned into something close to a home court for the Filipina, powered by a wave of Filipino and Filipino-American fans who have followed her through every stop of this North American swing. So let's get into all of it. The form, the draw, the 2 players, the tactical read, and then the honest verdict at the end. Start with form, because form is the whole argument. Eala arrived in Cincinnati riding something electric. She took a first-round bye as a seed, then went to work on Romania's Elena Gabriela Rus, and that second-round performance was a statement, even though the scoreline never got to finish itself. She dropped the very first game of the match. Then she won 9 straight, 9 consecutive games, a 6-1 first set, a 3-love lead in the second, and a Romanian opponent calling for the trainer to get her right foot treated because she had run out of answers. Then, the lightning came. Play was suspended at around 12:11 in the afternoon. Spectators were told to seek shelter, and the tournament announced play would resume no earlier than 1:30. Rus never came back out. The scoreline reads 6-1, 3-love, retirement. And yes, that's an unsatisfying way to advance. Nobody wants a walkover on their record instead of a completed win. But watch the tennis that came before the stoppage and the retirement stops being the story. She was surgical. She was reading the serve early, standing up on the return, and pushing a tour-level opponent so far behind the baseline that the court started to look twice as big as it was. Afterwards, she said she felt the ball well, that she'd kept herself in the zone, that she'd done a good job of staying there. That's a player who liked her own level even in a match that ended sideways. Across the draw, Anisimova handled the Turkish rising star Zeynep Sönmez cleanly and quickly. 6-2, 6-3, 1 hour and 16 minutes, 7 aces. The 9th seed looked composed throughout, flattening out her ground strokes and taking time away before Sönmez could find any rhythm at all. And when Anisimova is locked in like that, she is genuinely difficult to live with. Note that ace count, by the way. 7 for the American in her opening match, 0 for Eala in hers. Hold that number because it comes back later. Now here's the part that makes tonight heavier than it looks on the schedule. Look at what's waiting on the other side of it. Eala's section of this draw contains the 6th seed Linda Noskova, the 27th seed Clara Tauson, and Daria Kasatkina. Beyond that, the projected quarterfinal is Jessica Pegula, the same Pegula she beat in the Washington final, and above that sits a bracket with the world number 1 Arina Sabalenka as top seed and Iga Swiatek back defending the title she won here last year, with the final scheduled for the 23rd. It is a brutal, unforgiving road, and that's precisely why this third round matters more than a third round should. In a fortnight this dense, the match you're playing tonight is the only one you're allowed to think about, and the one you can least afford to give away. So who are these 2 players actually? Eala is 21, ranked 20th in the world, seeded 17th, and left-handed. And that last detail is going to matter more than it sounds. She came Going through the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, became the first Filipino to win a junior Grand Slam singles title at the 2022 US Open, then became the first Filipino to reach a WTA 1000 quarterfinal in Miami, and this season, she converted all of that promise into the real thing. A maiden WTA Tour title at the DC Open in Washington, the first ever won by a Filipino player, and look at the road she took to it. Leylah Fernandez, Alina Svitolina, Naomi Osaka, Zheng Qinwen, and then Jessica Pegula in the final, down a set, 4-6, 6-4, 6-love. She won the last 9 games of that final. 9. Against the world number 3, with a first title on the line. Her game is built around an aggressive left-handed forehand she uses to control rallies from every corner, paired with a return game that has been the most consistently dangerous part of her tennis all summer. And that left-handed serve generates angles out wide in the ad court that right-handers simply do not practice against very often. But the question marks are real, and they deserve airtime. Her hard-court main draw record sits at 29-26. Anisimova's is 110-69. That's not a small gap. That's a different amount of career. And the last time Eala ran into somebody who can match her power and her intent, in Toronto against Belinda Bencic, the run ended in straight sets. Can the aggression hold its shape against an opponent hitting just as flat, just as hard, with more physicality behind the ball? That's the central tension of the entire match. Which brings us to Anisimova, 24 years old, American, world number 10, 9th seed, right-handed, two-handed backhand, and a career that started earlier than almost anyone's. She won the 2017 US Open girls title by beating Coco Gauff in the final. She reached the French Open semifinals in 2019 at 17 years old by taking out Simona Halep. And then, after years of turbulence, she produced the season of her life in 2025. A WTA 1000 title in Doha, another in Beijing, a Wimbledon final, a US Open final, and a climb to a career-high ranking of number 3. That is not a resume you talk your way past. 2 major finals in a single calendar year puts you in a very short line of players. But 2026 has been a different animal. A left wrist injury interrupted her spring and cost her chunks of the season. The results have come in flashes rather than runs. A semifinal at the Australian Open, a semifinal in Dubai where Pegula stopped her, a round of 16 exit in Toronto against Svitolina, 6-2, 6-4. Her year sits at 20 wins and 10 losses, which for a top 10 player is fine, and for the player who made 2 slam finals is a long way from where she was. And that's the honest read on her. Still top 10, still a 2-time major finalist, still one of the most dangerous ball strikers in any draw on a hard court, where that flat, early, low-margin game finds its truest home. And still, by her own results this year, a player who has been searching. Because that's the trade-off baked into how she plays. Elite depth and pace that rushes opponents before they can set their feet. Proven composure in the biggest matches on tour, but a margin so thin that when the level dips even slightly, the errors arrive in clusters. That's the version of Anisimova that Eala needs to find tonight. Put them side by side and the contrast sharpens. Eala, 21, ranked 20th, seeded 17th, left-handed, 11 wins in her last 13 matches, a maiden title over the world number 3 as her headline result. Anisimova, 24, ranked 10th, seeded 9th, right-handed, coming off a clean straight sets win, with back-to-back Grand Slam finals as hers. Rankings favor Anisimova. Resume favors Anisimova. Head-to-head is completely blank, and trajectory belongs to Eala, and it isn't close. 9 wins over top 10 players in 17 months, 7 of them this season alone. Swiatek twice, Svitolina twice, Madison Keys, Jasmine Paolini, Coco Gauff, Elena Rybakina, Jessica Pegula. Tonight she's playing for the 10th name on that list. Here's what makes this genuinely compelling as a matchup though, and it's the thing most previews get wrong. These 2 games overlap far more than they contrast. Both are baseline aggressors. Both want to take the ball early, flatten it out, and finish points on their own terms. Neither is a natural grinder or counterpuncher waiting for the other one to miss, which means this match will not be decided by one player imposing a plan on a passive opponent. It'll be decided by who executes cleaner under pressure, who serves more efficiently, and who wins the first strike battle in return game. games. The left-handed variable is a real edge in that fight. Anisimova hasn't faced many high-level lefties this season, and the mirror image angles, especially that serve out wide in the ad court, disrupt patterns a right-hander has built over a decade of muscle memory. Expect Eala to go there early and often, dragging Anisimova off the court and opening the forehand into the space behind her. It has worked repeatedly this summer. The counterweight is the American's raw pace. When her striking is truly on, very few players on tour can absorb that ball and redirect it, and her flat backhand in particular can overwhelm opponents who are still filling out physically, which, at 21, Eala still is. That gap shows up in long rallies, in the third set, in the 7th point of a deuce game, which is exactly why the return games are likely to settle this. And it's worth remembering the arithmetic from round 2. 7 aces for Anisimova, none for Eala. If the Filipina can't create pressure on return, she's giving away free holds to a player who does not need any help. There are a few other factors worth flagging before the first ball. Freshness. Eala's second round win ended in a retirement, meaning she never had to grind through a full 3-set battle to get here, and in a fortnight where matches stack up fast and fatigue compounds quickly, that extra recovery, physical and mental, is a small but genuine edge. Then there's the crowd, and this one isn't speculation, because Anisimova herself brought it up unprompted after her first round win. Asked about facing Eala, she said she hadn't played her before, called her a great player having an incredible season, and said she was expecting a very packed stadium. She's right. The Filipino diaspora has shown up in numbers at every stop of this swing and turned Eala's matches into events, and playing in front of a crowd that is loudly, unconditionally in your corner does something measurable to a player's level on break points and in tie breaks. And finally, weather. Rain and lightning have already interrupted this tournament once this week. If another delay lands while one player is holding momentum, that momentum can evaporate in the locker room, and it can cut in either direction. So here's the bottom line, and it starts with the case against her, because that case is real. On rankings, Anisimova is ahead. On resume, it isn't close. 2 Grand Slam finals, 2 WTA 1000 titles, a career high of number 3, and 4 times the hard court main draw experience. If the American shows up anywhere near her 2025 peak, she is the better ball striker in this matchup, and the more proven closer when a set gets tight. And anybody telling you otherwise is selling something. Rick Macy, who has coached 5 players who went on to become world number 1, called this a great learning test for Eala against clean, early, lethal striking. A learning test. That's the framing from someone who has watched more of these than almost anyone alive. But form isn't a number sitting next to your name. Form is a direction, and right now, Eala's points sharply, decisively upward. A first tour title won by beating 4-seeded players and then taking the last 9 games off the world number 3. 11 wins in her last 13 matches. A career-high ranking arriving in the middle of the run rather than after it. While Anisimova's 2026 has been defined by a wrist injury, an interrupted spring, and a slow, uncertain rebuild toward the tennis she was playing 18 months ago. Matesy also said that when Eala is set on balance and hitting on the rise, she gets you on a string. That's the version that shows up tonight, and it's the version Anisimova has never had to solve, because nobody in this matchup has any film on anybody. Eala herself said before this tournament that she measures a week by the matches of substance, not the number of rounds she survives. This is a match of substance either way. The path to winning it runs through the return games and through that left-handed angle out wide that the American simply hasn't had to answer very often at this level. If Eala locks into that pattern early, if she makes the stadium feel it, if she makes Anisimova feel the weight of a season that hasn't gone to plan, this isn't just a match she can win. This is a match she's built to win. So tell me in the comments, straight sets, 3 sets, or does Anisimova shut this down? Because whoever comes through this has the round of 16 waiting immediately, a possible quarterfinal against Pegula behind it, and a final on the 23rd. And for Eala, if she survives Ohio, there's an exhibition against Iva Jovic at Arthur Ashe Stadium on the 27th before the US Open even begins. 9 top 10 wins. 1 more tonight, and the conversation about her stops being about potential entirely.